One of the most difficult things about dating apps is you can be whoever you want to be.
It's called romance fraud, and it's on the rise.
It's really a crime that targets our most human desires, to be loved, to be cared for, to be looked after.
Christopher Harkins seemed like a dream date, but he betrayed the trust of nearly 24 women.
37-year-old Christopher Harkins used Facebook and the dating app Tinder to target his victims.
I definitely realised I don't know who this person is.
The reason why I wasn't into you was looks. Simple as that.
He took their money and was sexually and violently abusive.
I remember thinking, this is it. I'm going to be one of these women who's killed by their boyfriend.
Harkins had left a trail of emotional devastation.
Many women reported him to the police, yet Harkins evaded justice for almost a decade.
If the police had taken this seriously early on, there are so many other women whose lives would not have been affected.
It was the determination of those women that finally put a stop to one of Scotland's most prolific romance fraudsters.
You've picked the wrong person. There's no way you're winning this.
I had recently just come out of a relationship. I was carrying a broken heart at the time, so I probably was, in essence, a little bit vulnerable.
It was 2015, and Zara, that's not her real name, was working as a sales rep for a luxury car brand in Glasgow.
Tinder was where it was at. That's where a lot of people went to start dating. Me and all my friends used it, and there was nice guys on it, so you weren't as wary as you maybe are these days.
I work full time, I work hard, so there wasn't a huge amount of opportunity to meet somebody if it wasn't online.
In 2019, Lisa was a successful consultant, but she'd become disillusioned with dating. These women were happy to be filmed, but asked for different names to be used, so they're not forever linked to this story.
I had been single at that point for about 3 years, and Tinder was becoming, quite a cool thing to do.
Lisa and Zara both matched with the same guy, a self-described, business-owning, cocktail-drinking gym rat called Chris.
I just remember seeing him. He was a nice-looking boy. He dressed really well, and he gave off the kind of sense of being quite a successful young man. I swiped right, and then it came up a match. You can either message first or wait for them to message, but I never messaged first.
I remember describing him to friends as Jason Momoa. Pretty athletic looking, masculine, he had tattoos. He clearly thought he looked good as well. Quite adventurous, there was lots of pictures of holidays.
He mentioned loads of places that I'd been, and they were all quite extravagant, like Thailand, Maldives, America.
This jet-setting, athletic young businessman was ticking a lot of boxes.
We arranged a date in Glasgow. We went to a comedy club, and he was even more handsome in person. Yeah, at this point I'm thinking, gentleman, no creepy vibes.
We met maybe 2 or 3 weeks after we had initially started chatting, and it was really casual. It was a nice date. We chatted away again, sort of no red flags.
After the comedy club, we went to the casino. He was quite flashy, and he won quite big on roulette. And he'd put cash in my handbag and said, just keep that, we'll go halfers. And I was a bit strange, but I'll take it.
He told me that he had a foreign currency exchange business and made a lot of money from it. One of the most difficult things about dating apps is you can be whoever you want to be.
What the women didn't know was that this was all part of Harkin's carefully laid plan.
People go onto dating apps presenting the images that they want to present. Businessmen in charge of a lot of money or big decision-making and very flash holidays. You have to remember perpetrators are working really hard to make this version that they're putting forward a reality.
For me, kind of being chosen and feeling like somebody likes you that quickly, it feels like validation.
When somebody is giving you the power to be the most important person in their life, that is a real confidence builder. But of course, you're just being used.
As the months passed, cracks began to appear in Harkin's carefully curated persona.
He hated makeup, absolutely hated makeup. He would always say, "You've got too much makeup on, wash your face." I had a thing about nail polish as well, didn't like red nail polish. I remember thinking, who's he to tell me I can't wear makeup? We went for dinner. It was just a normal date night. We were having fun, chat back and forth. He'd excused himself to go to the bathroom. The bill came over, I had paid the bill. I thought it was a nice thing to do. And at that point, he got really angry with me. He said, "Don't ever effing do that again." He said that I'd completely embarrassed him. He was quite aggressive and he actually grabbed my arm at that point. It was kind of here and he just grabbed it quite tight and almost lifted me up out the seat and said, "We're leaving."
What was your reaction to that?
Shock.
Harkins had said he owned a successful business, but 4 months in, he asked Zara to pay for hundreds of pounds worth of designer shirts. He never paid her back. Then he asked her for even more money.
I got a strange message from him asking if I could transfer £800 into a bank account that wasn't his. And he said it was for one of his best friends who I'd never heard of before. However, Chris couldn't transfer his friend the money because his bank account was frozen.
After just 3 dates, Harkins also persuaded Lisa to transfer cash.
So it was very early on, all of the holiday chat started. He had said, "Where would you like to go?" He then started sending me pictures of hotels, 5-star, swim-up rooms, you know, where it's all very private.
Harkins asked Lisa to transfer half the holiday cost to him, so she made the bank transfer.
£3,247, you know, to the penny.
And he sent her a booking confirmation.
When you feel like this is now your partner, you are in a relationship with them, I care for them, they've asked me, I'd be a bad partner if I don't do this. And this is where we actually see where the financial fraud really escalates.
For Zara, alarm bells were ringing.
At this point, I was very switched on to the fact that this guy has been telling some lies. So I pretended that I was doing the transfer just to see what his reaction would be. He was blowing up my phone, texting me, calling me, "This money's not arrived. If you can't afford it, just say, you're so embarrassing." I'd blocked him, and maybe a few days later, I got some random text messages from numbers that I hadn't heard of. I knew it was him, and it was just abuse. Going in for my looks, my teeth, just ripping me apart. And at that point, I definitely realised that I don't know who this person is.
After transferring more than £3,000, Lisa began to have doubts.
I woke up the next morning and it's so hard to describe this because I woke up with a sinking feeling in my stomach. And so I called him and his phone was off. And yeah, the sinking feeling just got deeper.
Frantic, Lisa called the hotel in Greece. They had no record of the booking in either of their names. She spoke to her bank and says she was told they couldn't help. She transferred the money willingly to a person known to her.
I felt like an idiot. I phoned the police and the police had asked me to come in. I went to the desk and she kind of dismissed me and said, "Well, there's not really much we can do if your boyfriend doesn't want to take you on holiday now."
With in-person romance fraud like this case, a lot of police will turn around and say that this is a civil matter. It's really important that we have a consistent message with police that when a victim approaches them about romance fraud, that they are met with empathy and understanding that they deserve, rather than being dismissed and having their feelings diminished.
In the year up to June 2024, almost £95 million was lost to romance fraud in the UK, with an average loss of more than £10,000 per person. Despite unresolved questions about the holiday booking, Harkins was back in touch with Lisa and had asked her to take out a £12,000 loan for him.
Why was it that you kept speaking to him at this point?
Because I wanted my money back and I thought I could get it. I just thought you've picked the wrong person. There's no way you're winning this. And so I took some of his photographs from his social media and pictures that he'd sent me, and I sent it to 2 or 3 newspapers. The next day, I got contacted by a lady called Kat.
Journalist Katrina Stewart took an immediate interest in Lisa's email.
It was a really complicated story. Luckily, because she is a smart woman, she had kept all of the messages between herself and Christopher Harkins. Hi, Lisa. She was really concerned that he might go on to have other victims.
I felt like she cared, so that made me feel that I was able to open up without feeling judged. She was then able to contact him.
He has an excuse for everything. By that point, I could tell that he was starting to get quite desperate.
With pressure mounting, Harkins returned Lisa's money to her. But he couldn't stop the front page story, which was published on the 17th of October 2019. That was the moment it became clear that Lisa was far from the only woman who had been targeted by Harkins.
One of my best friends tagged me on a Facebook post. Oh my God, is this your ex?
My phone just blew up. Within a few hours of the article going live, I had 5 women who had been in touch with Christopher Harkins phone me, and my emails were just pinging constantly. Christopher Harkins was in the subject heading, and it very, very quickly became apparent to me that this man had been operating for at least a decade, that his alleged crimes were far more than financial, and that this was an individual who was potentially very dangerous.
Katrina discovered Harkins was repeating his holiday scam with numerous women. He was taking out fraudulent loans in some of their names, and the stories got more disturbing. Verbal, physical, and sexual abuse.
I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked. It's vile. And to think that I let this guy into my life, it's so scary.
Many of the women that I spoke to had been to Police Scotland and tried to complain about his behaviour. Nothing had been done. And it seemed to me that it was really vital to make sure that this man's name was in the public domain in order to try and prevent there being more victims.
With cases like this, they will carry on doing this if they are not stopped. And when it's ignored by the police, it empowers and emboldens them. So we see an escalation in the crimes that are committed.
Despite the news coverage, Harkins carried on dating. He'd found himself a new target on Tinder. We're calling this woman Naomi. Using artificial intelligence technology, we've altered her face and voice to protect her identity.
We matched, we got chatting. It was nice. We talked to, did humour, just sort of hit it off from there, yeah.
When Naomi met Harkins in 2019, around the same time he was seeing Lisa, she had no idea of his past.
If I'd have known he did that to him, it wouldn't have happened. I would have unmatched, blocked him, blocked his number, decided never to speak to him again.
The two dated casually for several months. Patterns of behaviour, similar to other women he preyed on, started to appear. He persuaded Naomi to transfer £500 to him, and then he asked a much bigger favour.
He told me he was having trouble with his bank, and I think he'd asked to transfer about 10,000 into my account. He said, would I be able to take it out for him? So I went to the bank. He actually came with me. I was at the till with the cashier, and she asked me, is this being used for fraudulent purposes? Are you taking it out willingly and knowingly? Are you okay with all of this? I think by him being there, I felt kind of obligated to answer that, yeah, I've known him for a while, yeah, he is a friend. Didn't think at that point it could be fraud.
The cashier was suspicious, and before Naomi could leave, the police were on the scene.
Chris was sitting on the seat next to me, but they asked me to just come away from him a few steps away. They basically said, do you know him? How well do you know him? Do you trust him? Said the same thing. Known him for a while, so they gave me the money, and I gave it to him.
Naomi handed over the £10,000 cash to Harkins. On another occasion, things took a darker turn. After spending a night with Harkins, Naomi received a message that left her shaken.
He sent me a video. It was all through what's Harkin said, and then he wrote, right, well, look at it this without you realising.
Was that something that you consented to?
No, definitely not. It shouldn't have happened.
Can I ask you a wee bit about how you felt?
Absolutely violated. So I asked him to delete it, but he said he would, but I'm not sure if he ever did. So I feel like if I made a big deal out of it, then, that would have maybe triggered him to behave worse. I don't know.
Naomi decided not to report what had happened to the police, but BBC disclosure can reveal that at least 9 other women did report Harkins. Those 9 reports were made as far back as 2012.
It is incredibly frustrating. If the police had taken this seriously early on, when the first women started going to them asking for help, there are so many other women whose lives would not have been affected by this man.
We've spoken to multiple women who say they felt dismissed after trying to report Harkins for crimes including physical abuse, recording intimate videos without consent, tens of thousands of pounds in fraud, and threatening behaviour. Their complaints were not taken any further by police at the time.
It takes a lot for a victim survivor to come forward. So the impact it has when you do finally make that big step to disclose and then are shut down, as it were, you see women no longer seeking support. It's because what they've just had is a professional minimizing or completely disregarding their experience.
The sheer number of people that came forward, I think it's clear that there were opportunities to investigate. That makes me feel quite sad, actually, that there were so many opportunities to stop him.
After the first story was published, there was a marked change in the police's approach to Harkins. Now, they were taking it seriously.
I had several more women who were willing for their stories to be shared in the paper. So I was preparing that, I was doing interviews, I was getting everything set up, and then Police Scotland got in touch. They asked that we would stop reporting. They had decided at this point that they were going to investigate Christopher Harkins.
It was a unique investigation for Police Scotland at the time. There was obviously a financial side where there was frauds that were committed, but that was also coupled with abuse, and that was including sexual, physical. The coercive and controlling behaviour that he displayed was really something that you would describe as monstrous behaviour.
Following the police investigation, Harkins was charged with 16 counts of fraud.
The numbers involved were shocking. There were 2 cases where the women had given Harkins more than £70,000.
Over a 7-year period, he was accused of abusing a total of 13 different women, including violent assaults, recording intimate videos without consent, and 3 counts of rape.
I felt sick when I saw that. I felt real shock at that. When the High Court trial called at Paisley, I attended every day.
Harkin stood trial in May 2024. He had met all of the women who testified online.
He'd make sort of comments about my appearance. I had a real issue with red lipstick and red nail polish. He said to me that was vile. I made his skin crawl, that he could have any girl that he wanted. I should think myself lucky that he chose me.
Did you ever challenge him about his behaviour?
Yeah, I did. But he was so manipulative and so controlling, and I would ask him to leave. I tried to phone the police before. He threatened me once. He said to me, do you know what? One time you're going to go home and someone's going to drag you around the side of your house and rape you.
Ahead of the trial, Harkins pleaded guilty to all of the financial crimes. So in the end, there was £214,000 worth of fraud, which meant that for the trial in front of the jury, there were 4 women involved, and it was all of the crimes of violence.
There was one occasion where he took me and threw me on the floor. Another occasion where he grabbed my face and held it really tight, sort of pulled my hair towards him. Then another time where he put his hands around my neck and held me down on the bed so tightly, and I tried to get him off me, but looking up into his eyes while he was doing that, his eyes became vacant. He was staring right at me, holding my throat, and at the time I remember thinking, This is it. I'm going to be one of these women who's killed by their boyfriend.
Another former partner, who we're calling Jane, described a pattern of abusive behaviour by Harkins, including recording an intimate video without consent.
He was behind me and I was laying down on the bed. I remember turning around and seeing a phone, and I know I had specifically told him I do not want any videos.
How did you feel?
I was angry, and when I asked him to stop, he did not stop. He kept saying things like, "Imagine if your dad saw that video." He found it all really funny. For Jane's evidence, the court was cleared, so only members of the press were allowed into the room. And that gave it a very different atmosphere. We were aware that there was about to be quite harrowing testimony. All I recall about that incident itself is that I was not awake when it started. He was trying to have sex with me while I was asleep.
What woke you up?
The only memory I have is discomfort. I remember feeling in pain. I remember feeling uncomfortable. I remember feeling confused. I tried to push him away.
Were you able to get away?
No,
Why was that?
because he was stronger than I am. And if I did try and get away, he'd just end up holding me down. I remember this was a time when he grabbed me by the neck.
How did you feel when this was happening?
Out of control.
Did you consent?
No. She was so composed and so calm. She faced really relentless and forensic questioning from Harkin's defence lawyer, and she handled that so brilliantly. There were so many details that I was just horrified to hear.
It shouldn't have to be a brave thing to have to do, but it really, really is. What they'd been through and maybe not have been heard the first time.
It takes so much strength to carry that through and to not back out.
Towards the end of the 2-week trial, Harkins took the stand, maintaining that he was not guilty of all the physical and sexual abuse allegations against him.
He just seemed like this very diminished, very pathetic figure. His clothes were too big. He was hunched over. He was very quiet. And he had no real defence. The women are lying. And that's what he stuck with. And it was so flimsy.
In May 2024, Christopher Harkins was found guilty of 19 crimes against 10 women, including Lisa. Kirsty's allegation that he strangled her was found not proven. He was convicted of assault for a separate attack on her, and he was also convicted of raping Jane.
It was really overwhelming. I was so relieved for the women. He was furious. He was shaking his head. He was very unhappy when he was being led away.
The women's testimony had finally secured justice.
I was in work. I actually took a moment, I went out and sat in my car. I was just so happy at the verdict.
What couldn't be revealed during the trial was that Harkins had also served a prison sentence in 2022 for continuing to scam women in London while he was awaiting trial in Scotland.
I don't think Christopher Harkins would ever have stopped what he was doing. He was a prolific offender. He was going to keep doing this again and again.
We've spoken to 9 other women, in addition to the 13 whose allegations form part of the trial, who say they too were targeted by Harkins. We've seen dozens of threatening and abusive messages he sent to women.
When I seen you the very first time, I knew you never looked like your pictures, because I like boobs and you didn't have any.
We've estimated Harkins may have defrauded at least £53,000 more, forcing one woman into bankruptcy and several others into years of paying back loans they never received. He's also accused of other offences, including the intimate video he took of Naomi.
Had you ever told this to anyone before?
No.
Is this the first time?
Yeah. Nobody ever takes these things seriously from women. It's an ongoing issue. It has been for years. It's a bad day, preys on women. His weight. That's how I say, just speak.
Do you think the women were let down?
They were let down. I feel as if they've been heavily let down by the system.
The response that they had from certain officers, from Police Scotland as a whole, is just not good enough.
You know, you can't always guarantee a conviction, but you should certainly feel that your report has been investigated fully.
We put these concerns to Police Scotland.
The previous reports that were made, there was no reports of physical or sexual abuse ever made to the police at that time. It was mainly around the financial situation.
We know of one woman who reported multiple frauds. In 2014, we were told that there was physical abuse reported by 2 women. In 2015, 2 further reports. In 2018, 3 in 2019. All totally independent from each other. They didn't know there were other victims. And that was all before the police finally investigated. So can you see how there may have been missed opportunities?
They've obviously been dealt with in isolation, and that's probably one of the issues, that they've not been pulled together. But again...
Should they have been?
It depends on how you look at it and the information available to officers at the time. They were obviously investigated to the best of their ability at that particular time.
Do you think it would be appropriate for Police Scotland to apologise to the women?
I think, again, that's a very difficult question to answer. They've got a successful court result now, based on the investigation that was conducted. It's disappointing to find that people feel let down by the police. I would say, with everything that we've put in place since then, I would hope that that experience wouldn't be replicated now.
Despite the police's initial failure to act, the women's persistence eventually led to a dangerous predator being put behind bars.
And on the day of the sentencing, I wore a red dress and my red Chanel lipstick.
A rapist who abused and scammed £214,000 from 9 women he met online has been jailed for 12 years.
And as he stood up, he turned round and he looked at the press gallery and he looked me right in the eye and he said, "This is because of you."
I'll never forget it. I was just so relieved for everybody that had stood up and told their story.
It's a relief. He's behind bars, he can no longer get to any more women and put them through the hell that he's put all those girls through.
Women are starting to be heard, which I absolutely love.
These women are strong and they're tenacious. And why should these perpetrators be allowed to walk away? And, you know, they carry on with their life while we're dealing with the scars. It's time for us to say no more. And we fight back.
I think by speaking out, I now know that there are so many women that this has happened to, that I do feel that they maybe wouldn't have got the justice that they have if I hadn't come forward.
I feel like it's a win for women everywhere. For the ones who don't go forward, for the ones who sit in silence, the ones that feel ashamed, the ones that are too scared to tell their friends and family. So for these girls that told the truth, it's a huge win.